Okay, I'll bring to order the regular planning commission meeting for March 13th. Call the meeting to order and approve the agenda. Oh, yeah. Do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Taylor? Here. Commissioner Brock?
Present.
Commissioner Arceo?
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Here.
Commissioner Blaney?
Present.
And Chairperson?
Present. So I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as written.
I approve.
A motion, do we have a second to approve the agenda?
A second.
Motion is second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed say no.
No. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good.
You can't. That's your motion.
You're good.
You can say no, I can't.
You're good. So this is the public comment section, opportunity for members of the public to address the commission on items of interest to the public, except for the items on the regular calendar, which will be discussed immediately afterwards. So is there anybody in the public that wants to come forward and take this opportunity to discuss items of concern to the public? Seeing none, we will close the public comment and move on to the regular calendar. Regular calendar, first item, approval of the planning commission meetings from January 9th.
So moved to approve the minutes as presented.
We have a motion to approve the minutes from January 9th. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. All right, move on to item 2, the conditional use permit application for redesign and rebuild of the existing Sinclair convenience store. I'm going to turn it over to Community Development Director Holly Owen.
Thank you, Chair Cooper and Planning Commission members. Holly Owen, Community Development Director. Here tonight to consider a conditional use permit 2020-501 for a redesign and rebuild of the existing Sinclair convenience store, gas station, and proposed restaurants at 825 Sierra Street, Kingsburg. Your recommendation in front of you is in accordance with the provisions of Section 1768 of the Municipal Code. You take the following actions. You adopt the negative declaration for the project pursuant to CEQA guidelines and approve Resolution 2020-501, approving the conditional use permit application subject to the conditions of approval as shown in Attachment A. Just your executive summary, the applicant, Bobby Santu, is seeking approval of a conditional use permit for a rebuild of the gasoline station business at 825 Sierra Street. That's currently a Sinclair station on the northwest corner of Sierra and Simpson Streets. The two parcels that include this project total 44,956 square feet, and there's a proposed convenience store, 6 fuel pumps fronting Sierra Street, and a proposed future retail building of 5,000 square feet with frontage on Simpson Street. There's a map in your packet should you want to get oriented on that. A lot merger will be required before project completion. The property is zoned highway commercial. It's outside the form-based code area. The proposed use is permitted with a conditional use permit as outlined in the zoning ordinance. The reason they're here tonight for a conditional use permit is because they are involving dispensing of petroleum gas fuels for use by the traveling public. That's kind of an antiquated way to just say they're a gas station, and they are also they are in good company with the 2 other gas stations who have also applied for conditional use permits in the past and have received them. That's the Quick Corner rebuild station, and also the proposed Union 76 station, which is further to the west on Sierra, just alongside Dollar Tree. So this proposed project, just so you know, has been before site plan review several times in 2021, 2023, and then more recently last year. The final submittal includes changes to the elevations and expansion of the square footage. There's an addition of a second structure, which is new from previous submittals. But this will involve a tear down and rebuilt completely, so it will have a new look. Their current facility is fairly small, so this will be an expansion of their existing facility. They're not planning to expand any of the gasoline pumps. They'll still have 6, I believe. The applicants are here tonight to answer any questions you may have about the project. In records search, there was no conditional use permit that was issued for this use. It probably predated our zoning ordinance and our requirement for a conditional use permit. And the earliest building permit that we have on file was for a Union Oil station from the 1980s. There may be some folks that remember other uses there. Just so you know, there will be a lot merger, I think I mentioned, that will be required to combine the two parcels. The new project will be fire sprinklered and alarmed. And the existing branding, as far as I know, Sinclair branding will remain for now. I think that was still being discussed, but it sounds like that's the direction they're heading. Conceptual rendering of the project is attached as Exhibit 3. Finalization of the design, as well as completed landscaping plan, will be subject to city staff review and approval, and we're continuing to finalize those land use entitlements to incorporate any additional detail. Any future use on the site will be required to go through site plan review and receive conditions. They have a future retail building that's proposed. I think the intention will be a restaurant use. There is a proposed drive-through lane that you see on your site plan. So that's part of the reason that we would like to know a little bit more about that once they get to that phase 2 of their other project, and we'll go back through site plan review to make sure that we have all our traffic and circulation concerns met at that time. So, but the action in front of you tonight, it's to make findings for this conditional use permit. These are all in the code. Like a lot of the findings that you consider are, and they are listed under your section called Planning Commission Findings. They are that there are circumstances or conditions applicable to the land which makes the granting of this use permit necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right. Again, that's a property rights issue, and that is something that you have to consider and then take action on. That there's a proposed location of the conditional uses in accordance with the objectives of the zoning ordinance codified in this title and the purposes of the district in which the site is located, and that the proposed use will comply with each of the applicable provisions of this title. So the conditions of approval serve to meet the above findings and to accommodate that use and to ensure that the owner is allowed with conditions to pursue that use of that property on that site while protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the public. The conditions are based on standards contained within the city ordinance, including property development standards. Just generally, just to refresh your memory, the use permit can be revocable by Planning Commission and may be granted for a limited time period or may be granted subject to such conditions as the Commission may prescribe. You may also deny an application for a use permit. There are not variances to the regulations for which variance procedures are. It will not allow for variances, in other words. The decision of the Planning Commission is final unless there's an appeal. But, the project was assessed for potential environmental impacts with an initial study. It was prepared and no environmental impacts were identified, which resulted in a negative declaration for the project's assessment. So at this time, the recommendation is before you to adopt the negative declaration for the project and to approve resolution number 2025-01, approving the conditional use permit application subject to the conditions of approval. The conditions of approval are in your packet, and I am available to answer any questions. And again, the architect is here and also the owners of the property. So this concludes my staff.
Mr. Hawley? I have one question. Do you know anything about the pedestrian walkways around this piece of property? Have they planned for pedestrian walkways? What are they gonna look like? How wide are they gonna be?
They would be city standard sidewalks.
5-foot sidewalk?
I believe so. The architect is here to give you any detail if that's really, if that is of interest to you. So.
Okay.
Is my reading of this correct, that all you're going to do basically is take the convenience store portion of it, move it back ways, rebuild a 3,000 square foot building, and then possibly in the future put in a retail location, but we're not considering the retail building at this point in time, just the convenience store portion of the structure?
What you're considering tonight is the request for a conditional use permit to allow them to dispense fuel. To put it simply,
Yeah.
that's really why the conditional use permit is required for this particular use.
And that's their existing use of the property now.
Yes, it is.
And I do like the dinosaur, by the way. That's nice.
Well, we were just talking about the dinosaur and how we can integrate that dinosaur into some new Dala dinosaur
Yeah.
hybrid. We're not sure yet. We're
Anyway.
working on that.
But, okay, so I just for point of clarification, that's all I needed.
Right, thank you. And I think if you have any other more particular questions, I know the architect is here to answer. The existing size is really quite small. So it will be, an expansion of the use for the main store, but that's probably appropriate for current business needs.
So the only change to the property is essentially just moving that building back. They won't be digging up any tanks or?
No, they won't be digging, they won't be replacing, the tanks are fine where they are. They will be moving the building back and enlarging it.
Right, that's
And
all
so
that-
and I think they will formalize parking in a more.
Okay.
In a more standard way that the city would expect. I think back in the day, parking was maybe not quite so conditioned, and now we like to see particular stall size and, ADA
Right.
compliance
Okay.
and that kind of thing. So that will be the change. It will be modernized, I would say. So.
I say it's about time.
So I have a question for the architect. The pedestrian walkways, I don't see any measurements on here.
Do you want to come up to the microphone, Kent, and just introduce yourself, please? Thank you for the record.
Did you have a plan for the pedestrian walkway around, or what is the intention for? Is there a dedicated pedestrian sidewalk?
It would be to the city standard, whatever the city's going to require out there. But yes, we do have to have pedestrian access around there. And we'll have to coordinate that with Caltrans, especially on Sierra Street, because Caltrans will have a lot to say about what goes on out there. And additionally, there's two drives currently going onto Sierra Street. And a condition from Caltrans is to remove one of the drives. We'll be removing the part of the east drive.
Oh, okay. All right, that's the only question I have. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. Looks like all the work's been done. I'd have a hard time finding any reason to question this. Any questions from the rest of the planning commission for the architect? You got the elevations. You have the footprint. Looks like we have some Swedish design elements on the elevations.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Looking at these plans, Exhibit 3, and 4, is that just the new building that's going to be coming up, or is this part of the convenience store?
There's two sets of elevations, one for the convenience store, which,
Okay, so the last two are the new
Yeah.
eatery, what you want to build in the future.
yeah, Exhibit 3 would be the future building.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that in my mind. Thank you.
I have a question for Holly. Is there a time limit on the CUP? I don't see it in the resolution. Do we have to actually stipulate
You can set a time limit for a conditional use permit, but in a situation like this, we usually leave it, open, because it's really kind of an either or. You give them permission to dispense fuel, and unless they're dispensing it incorrectly or, not according to state law, then that's what is in front of you today, is to act on the conditional use permit granted for that particular action.
How does that tie into the construction of this project?
It's part of the general approval process.
Okay, so is there any time limit on when they have to get this done?
Well, there are some conditions on a site plan review approval. We're still working our way through that, and once that happens, there are conditions on that. Yeah, if they get approval for a site plan, they need to move. They need to move ahead as soon as they sign and approve their acceptance of the conditions.
Oh, I see. So they have to get approval from us first before they can go on to site plan review? Finalize it?
This is a tidying up action. They never got a conditional use permit back in the day.
Oh.
So, and every gas station is required to have this, and most jurisdictions in California. So this is what you do when they come, and then we go on to site plan review, and then they submit construction
Right.
documents,
So then
hopefully in a
site plan-
timely fashion.
Site plan review will determine how long they have to build this, or what the time limit is?
That is, and then they also have some, once they submit and they receive a building permit, there's other timelines that they need to meet.
Okay. All right. The other question I have is, the Kingsburg Community Development Department, is that a new name for the planning department? Is that a new, what is that organization? Kingsburg Community
Yes, it
Development
is. I
Department.
guess it's the name of the department that has building, code enforcement, and planning. So there was a planner, and for many years there was a community development director, and then there were a number of contract planners, and then now there's me, which is the head of the community development department, which
Okay.
includes building, planning, code enforcement.
All right.
So.
Any
Yes,
other-
sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
The only question I have, if they're not, is electricity considered to be a fuel dispensing option?
That's a very good question. I believe that at this point, what you have is technology that is outpacing the ability for us to write ordinances to either approve it or approve it subject to other regulations within the city. You will mostly it falls on the building permit and building department and building permits to approve charging stations, if that's what you're asking.
Yes.
And we're very fortunate that AJ happens to be here tonight, so if he wishes to comment on the approval process for electric.
Yeah, and this discussion is totally beside a
Right.
conditional use permit, but I'm just wondering, would we have to issue a separate conditional use permit for vehicle charging stations?
Not if it's not in our ordinance and does not fall under that conditional use category, the answer would be no. They would, however, be subject to many other regulations, including the building code and pulling permits and working with Caltrans if the need be, and our city engineer, our public works director. So they have their share of administrative hoops to
Because
jump
I
through.
didn't see a charging station built into these.
Spot for a charging station.
Yeah.
It requires a charging station. Depending on how many parking stalls you have, determines how many charging stations you have.
Okay,
Or at least be ready, have conduit and everything, so a charging station could be installed. But it's in the building.
okay. Good luck getting electricity to it.
So, planning commission is required to make findings, A, B, and C in the report, that there are circumstances or conditions applicable to the land structure or use which makes the granting of a use permit necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right. B, that the proposed location of the conditional use is in accordance with the objectives of the zoning ordinance codified in this title and purposes of the district in which the site is located. And C, that the proposed use will comply with each of the applicable provisions of the title, and apparently approving the CUP will comply with all these requirements. Is that correct, Mr. Nolan?
Yes, and I think those conditions are set forth in your resolution. Do we have to take, can we adopt the negative declaration separately, or do we have to take that? Okay.
You have to adopt the environmental document separate from the adoption of the resolution for the CUP.
Yeah, I move that we adopt the negative declaration.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the negative declaration as outlined in the report. Any discussion or amendment? Seeing none, we'll have a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. So that motion carries to adopt the negative declaration for this project.
And then I will then move that we approve Resolution 2025-01, approving the conditional use permit.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second to approve CUP 2025-01 for redesign and rebuild of the existing Sinclair convenience store. Motion and a second. Any discussion or amendments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. So that motion carries. The CUP has been approved by the Planning Commission. All right, next item on the agenda, future agenda items. Holly, do you have any of those?
None at this time, but I'm anticipating that there may be a meeting in April for a pending project. We'll just have to see how quickly they move forward. So that meeting is, let me give you a date, so you all know. That would be April 10th.
Okay.
Have your taxes done before you show up.
April 10th.
Note to self.
Can I ask a status report on the other gas station that is being rebuilt?
Couple gas stations being rebuilt. I know that Quick Corner has been in and out and trying to finalize some issues, I believe, with their electrical contractor, although I could probably ask my esteemed staff to give you a quick synopsis of that. I do know that Union 76, or at least that's the brand that they wanted to hold, the one out by Dollar Tree. They've run into a little bit of a goodbye. Thank you. They've run into a bit of an issue with PG&E, who wants them to move a transformer that was not apparent at the beginning of their project. So we're hoping that they can jump that hurdle with PG&E, but. Given the behavior of PG&E in recently, it could be a while. So we're here to assist them in whatever way we can, but they've gotten into that gray area. So we're hoping that moves forward as quickly as possible. Will be interesting to see in a couple of years. I would say we'll have 3 gas stations where we now only have 1. So
much for no gas stations in 2035. Which is good. Okay. Any other questions or comments? I'll accept the motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
Second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned.
thank you for your attendance.